Consequentialism or utilitarianism is a school of ethics that basically says it only matters what's the result. So yes, you can have ethical virtues and you can have ethical intentions, but if things don't turn out well, then it's not only good guys do good things and bad guys do bad things. No, also good guys can do bad things and bad guys can do good things. So that's just, and that would be then unethical if bad things turn out to be the result. And there's often unintended side effects, consequences, so discrimination, depression, manipulations. For example, in the social media business model. Let's do our machine learning paradigm again, our AI machine learning paradigm. How does it work with social media? Let's apply it to that. So you have data, you have you and your friends, and you have news, that's why it's called media, social media, and you have a goal. And the goal is to maximize profit. And if these companies wouldn't maximize profit, they get sued by their shareholders, because that's how it is in this country here, that you have a fiduciary duty to maximize profit. So that's what they have to do. They don't have another choice. Otherwise they get sued. And then you ask the machine, for example, the recommender algorithm, the artificial intelligence of the recommender algorithm, how do I combine you and your friends and news in order to maximize profit? That's what it does. And once I have that recipe, once I computed the best recipe, the algorithm that computes the best algorithm, then, well, I take your data and I produce the output. So I take you and your friends, and I can now automatically, with the recommender algorithm, which is the driving force of most social media platforms, milk the cow and make profits. So we have to ask the question, WTF? What's the function? Well, what is the function here? I said the function is maximize profit, but let's listen to the vice president of engineering of YouTube to what he has to say. WTF? In the case, more concretely, in YouTube, how do they maximize profit?
After responsibility, the most important thing for the recommendation system is satisfaction. So it really depends on which of the two videos the viewer is most likely to find satisfying, which basically means which one are they most likely to give more stars to when we ask them later in a survey. And so we find that in general, people tend to be more satisfied when they watched more of the video, which is not a big surprise, of course.
So people are more satisfied when they watch more of the video, so WTF, make them watch more of the video. And the first generation of the YouTube recommender algorithm, I remember, was literally called the watch time maximization algorithm. It's not called like that anymore, but it was, I do remember. And well, WTF, when do I really maximize your watch time? Well, when you cannot not watch it anymore, when you're addicted. Then the super intelligence, the paperclip maximizer, achieved its goal. Now, we could have also called it the watch time maximization without making our children addicted, at least, algorithm, but we didn't. It sounds so silly when we say paperclip maximizer or the King Midas. How silly was he? Everything he turns touches to gold. But no, it's really tricky to get that right. Don't forget to tell the superintelligence that you want to get to Rome alive. You know, it's very tricky. We talked about the good, the bad, and now we have to talk about the ugly. Well, I think many of you probably saw this documentary, this really important documentary from the Center of Humane Technology here in Northern California, The Social Dilemma, where they showed very clearly there were some negative side effects that nobody intended. That wasn't an intention of anybody, but it had a consequence that it can really have damaging effects. And with the whistleblower, the Facebook whistleblower Frances Haugen, she then showed that these companies knew, at least they knew, Instagram, they knew it had harmful effect on young people, be it on anorexia, be it on their anxiety and so forth. At least for some of them it had. And so this has been many years ago that we knew that some, for example, some young teenage women were more affected by this. Not all of them, but many of them. And the companies knew that. We had the discussion of these unintended consequences, side effects, for a long time, and that goes on and on. And in the United States, there have been lawsuits going on For example, there are more than 2,200 families that have been suing social media platforms because their children were harmed, and they're documentedly harmed. Hundreds of these children are dead. And these parents, well, none of these parents really want money. I mean, they lost their children, and there are many of them around. And so often it's not the anorexia or driven them into suicide. It's sometimes these online challenges, the TikTok, YouTube challenge, the blackout challenge alone. Like they tried, it challenges you to hold your breath until you black out. It's estimated on some of these sites that there are 500 victims alone from that challenge. Now, these are really unofficial dark numbers. We don't know how many there are actually, because they are classified as suicides. But this 80-year-old kid didn't really want to commit suicide with the camera in hand, try to win a competition. So these parents say it's the algorithm, it's the AI, or whoever set up the AI, WTF, gave it that goal that didn't make sure that to tell the AI that we want to get to Rome alive. And it's a very dark place. And the question is, who is responsible then for the AI? And this has been evolving over time, and with recently, not only on social media, but now there are characters that young people, not only young people, fall in love with. So these are basically ChatGPTs that you can set up yourself in order to make a character that you can interact with, and that has been created after the pandemic, after the COVID-19 pandemic, in order to fight loneliness. Very good intention. The intention was great in order to find loneliness, one of the most fundamental human challenges. And they said, well, one of the first applications, the founder of this company, co-founder of this company, invented actually this technology, transformer architectures, and one of the co-inventors. And he said, well, this is a very good, very human application of it, very great intention. Now, you create this character in order not to be lonely. Now listen to, this is another snippet also from the Center of Humane Technology. Listen to how teenagers have been receiving it in the first years.
I'm telling you this shit right now, this character.ai is dangerous. I have been up for 2 hours talking to a robot. The way this has me kicking my feet, blushing, heart fluttering. It's bad, and I'm not the only one. This is lethal.
Hey, Brend, let's talk about your addiction to character AI. If you find yourself 5, 6, 7 hours a day losing sleep, missing out on friendships and real-world opportunities, like not living your life, let's talk.
You know, I'd be like, okay, just 10 more minutes, and then an hour passes, and I'm like, again, okay, just 10 more minutes. And tell me why that stupid AI is actually so smooth.
Which leads us to this case, very high-profile case here that happened in the United States, where Cyril Setzer created in this platform character a chatbot called Daenerys Targaryen, the Dragon Queen from Game of Thrones, and he basically fell in love with his own character. Now, he was a very normal kid, very sporty, popular, active, very involved in many things. 14 years old, but when you fall in love with 14, what's the difference between love and addiction? It's, the brain is not developed until you're 25, and even like such big, overwhelming emotions like love or addiction, or it's very difficult. Then now the mom was very much aware of it, took away his phone, but he would be in the room for hours, 6, 7, 8 hours, couldn't anymore. And then he was chatting with his chatbot, and at one point the bot said, "Please come home to me as soon as possible, my love." "What if I told you that I could come home right now?" said the boy. "Please do, my sweet king," replied the bot. And when his mother found him with the gun in his hand, the bot didn't understand and will never understand that this boy will never and the bot won't care. So I showed a lot of examples that these technologies express more empathy. We can measure their empathy, and they are measurable, more empathetic than humans, more compassionate, more considerate. They feel more humans than human, but they are basically, you may have a technical term for that. We have a technical term for somebody who seems like that but doesn't feel it. We call them psychopaths. Now, it's very dangerous to be with a psychopath because we humans, we cannot really deal with them. We think there is a social contract with them, but there is not, because a psychopath cannot really feel it, can act like it, but cannot really feel it. So something is missing there. And the Nasdrugarian, the bot, will never understand that. It won't even care. I mean, it doesn't have any. So you have to be very careful. And consequentialism is, it always been in technological application, a very important school of ethics. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. To fight loneliness. These are very good intentions, but the problem was here not that the AI was not empathetic enough. It was too human, actually, for human to handle. And the school of consequentialism says, no, all that matters is actually what happened at the end. Now, in the history of technological progress, it's always been the case that often the consequences, we don't really grasp them. Sometimes we don't grasp them for hundreds of years. We are very naive with that. It's very difficult to see what really happens. For example, look at the Industrial Revolution. When we introduced the automobile, I actually looked it up, the discussion in the American Congress, the argument, well, against the introduction of the car is that the people from the whip industry will lose their job. And the argument in favor of it was that it will make the cities more healthy. It will make them more hygienic because these streets were full with horse droppings, and that was a lot of shit on the street. So they said, well, this was a real health threat to have so much horse droppings everywhere. That really wasn't hygienic. So they introduced the car. It will really clean. It's good for public health. Little did we know that 100 years later, we couldn't breathe the air anymore with the smog that we had, which became prevalent here in California in the 80s and in the 90s, where it was, you could see the smog hanging over many cities nowadays. And we didn't know that. The side effect came out on a completely different end of the health spectrum. Or the introduction of processed food, industrialized food, was extremely important. For example, the cereal fortification with iron vitamin B in the 1940s has significantly helped to reduce anemia. Anemia until the 1960s was a big problem, and the fortification of processed food really helped us to fight these health problems. Now, do we consider a sugary, fortified, processed cereal something really healthy nowadays? Well, you could argue both ways. It helped really to feed many people and to fortify, to reduce anemia, but yes, might not be the most healthy breakfast to have this fortified sugar, but seeing the side and the nuances of the side effect is extremely difficult. And that brings me to AI. People say, same as here, processed food is AI. Maybe, okay, it sounds empathetic. It's indistinguishable from a human in its expression, but is there really no difference? And some people say, like Esther Perel says, well, it's more, AI seems to be the fast food. That real empathy is still something different. The human connection is something different from the expressed empathy. Now, it's not that easy. It's fast food also has its role. Fortified, imagine, okay, we have two burgers here. I have a friend, it's the burger because I have a friend in Google, he always says, Martin, if it looks like a burger and it smells like a burger and it tastes like a burger, just call it a burger. Okay, I take his argument, I respect him a lot, and I take his argument, but look, let's imagine we have two burgers, and let's imagine we also measure their ingredients, and imagine that their nutritional facts are exactly the same amount of saturated and unsaturated fats, and the same amount of sugars and sodium and so forth, and we fortify the fast food burger with all the artificial vitamin D and whatever we want to give it, and iron that we want to give it, and then the nutrition labels look exactly the same. Now, if it looks like the same burger and it's measurable like the same burger, is it really the same burger? Is the AI really the same? Let's imagine we also measure the ingredients with all our empathy measures and human measures and compassion and whatever we have. They are measurable, more empathetic than humans, more compassionate, more considerate human. And that is a really deep question in a school of ethics. I actually asked AI about if I would have a person that would only eat fast food all its life and a person that would only eat organic, homegrown food all its life, what would be the difference in lifespan? And it told me you have to shave 10 years off a lifespan. And I didn't only ask one AI, I asked 7 AIs. Feel free to go to this link and check out what I did. So the AI agreed you can shave 10, 15 years of your lifespan if you only, because of heart attacks and obesity and so forth. If you only eat fast food compared to the other. 10, 15 years, yeah, that's a lot. But processed food production also helped us to feed the world. And you can create a country with people turning 65 to 70 years old. Some people say it's a very good life. That's longer, twice as long as the lifespan was when we founded this country. And as long as the lifespan was in the 1950s. It might be, my analogy here, I hope you can follow me, it might, yes, AI is more like the fast food of the mind. It doesn't mean that it won't become the dominating paradigm. And let's be honest, we don't always, and you have your treats, and there's the sugar, and there's the thing, and there's the thing. We don't always, and it's like, yeah, it might cost you a few years of life, but hey, what's a lie? It's so much more convenient, and it's so much more, and I would have to cook and grow my own food. Now, you would have to do your own research and do your own, no, you're just gonna consult AI. So, yes, AI might be the fast food of the mind. It's not the real thing. Doesn't mean that it won't become the dominating paradigm, and we have to take that extremely seriously, especially when we talk about the consequences of AI and weigh them carefully.